Hello, reading and writing friends. I'm Krista Tomlinson, indie published romance author. Thank you for joining me for this video on 10 tips to help you win NaNoWriMo. If you're wondering how I'm qualified to tell you how to win NaNoWriMo, I did win NaNoWriMo myself in 2020. So the tips that I'm going to share with you are some of the things that helped me in order to win that year. Also, I have written and published several books, and so I do know what it's like to completely finish a project, whether it's through Nano or just writing on your own time without a writing challenge. So next, let's go ahead and talk about what exactly NaNoWriMo is for those of you who are unfamiliar with the writing challenge. So for those of you who do not know what NaNoWriMo is or are not quite sure what it is, NaNoWriMo, or National Novel Writing Month, is a writing challenge that takes place every year in the month of November, where writers from around the world attempt to write 50,000 words of their manuscript or whatever writing project they're working on. It was founded in 1999 by Chris Beatty. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And since then, it has become a big, giant, worldwide writing challenge that people look forward to and get ready for every year in order to try and win that 50,000 word writing goal. The challenge is completely voluntary. It does not cost anything to participate, and you do not win an actual prize if you win NaNoWriMo by writing your 50,000 words from November 1st through November 30th. Completing a writing project can be hard to do, especially if it's not already something that is your job, and because life gets in the way. If you are a student, you have school you have to take care of. If you're a working person, then you have to go to work. If you have family, you have to care for your family. So it can be hard to find the time to sit down and actually write 50,000 words and complete a project. So this is the point of the challenge, is to help you get past those stumbling blocks that prevent you from writing. It helps you set that time aside and helps you work with others to get it done. So that's why a lot of people are excited to take part in this challenge, because it gives you that motivation and just that permission to sit down and write those 50,000 words that you may have been struggling to get out because of other life commitments. But it is a lot of fun to participate, and people have used this challenge in order to complete projects they've wanted to complete for a long time, or a new idea that just started up. Lots of people have used this to complete books that have gone on to be published by publishers or self-published, either way. So National Novel Writing Month can do a lot of good for writers who are trying to get a project completed and just need that little extra push in order to make it happen. So as I mentioned, NaNoWriMo is writing 50,000 words of a project within the month of November. It does not necessarily have to be a book, although most people do write novels, but it could be a collection of poems, it can be a film script, it can be whatever it is that you're trying to write, but most people do write a novel. And you might be thinking, 50,000 words, is that a lot? Is that hard? How does that work? Since I'm a romance author, I'm going to try and explain it in a way that makes sense to me, because that's what I know. So for romance novels, if you're thinking of just the kind of small paperback type of romance novels, mass market paperbacks, and a little bit up the larger size trade paperbacks as well, 50,000 words of that type of book is going to be a little over 3/4 of the way through for that type of book. Romance novels will tend to be between 75,000 and 85,000 words if we're talking about just the traditional genre expectations that people expect and people work for, if they're, people write towards, if they're following traditional publishing guidelines. So that's about what you can expect for the length of the book. So when you're finished with the 50,000 words, you may or may not have a full-length novel. This may just be a start for you, especially if you're writing something like fantasy, where they tend to be much longer, going 100,000 words and more, or if you're just writing a long romance novel, or if you're writing a short story, it could be several short stories. But basically, just as a guideline, 50,000 words is about 3/4 of the way being finished towards a longer standard size romance novel. So now that we know what NaNoWriMo is and why it can be sometimes difficult for people to write 50,000 words, let's go ahead and talk about the tips that will help you complete this project, or complete this writing challenge, because it can be tough to do. So the first tip that I have for you is to prepare. Now, as I'm recording this and as I'm going to publish this, it's NaNoWriMo Eve, which basically means, well, I'm recording it on the 30th, but when it goes up tomorrow, it'll be NaNoWriMo Eve, which is the day before the writing challenge starts. So you may think, oh, it's too late. I don't have time to prepare for this writing challenge anymore. Or if you're a pantser, you may think that you may not need to do so. However, this does not have to be a big in-depth preparation. I just want you to basically know the basics of your story before you go in writing, so that you can be ready to, that you can write without having to stop and go back and think about things. Now, a lot of people have already taken the month of October, which has become known as Preptober, to prepare for their Nano novel. You don't have to do that if that feels like it's too much pressure for you, because it can be a lot like, oh, I'm taking the whole month of October to prepare, and now I gotta take the whole month of November to write. So that might be too much. That's okay. We can just do a quick preparation. So what I would like for you to do is to know the basics. What genre is your story? Are you writing a fantasy? Are you writing a thriller? Are you writing horror? Are you writing romance? And then from there, you can go even a little bit further. What subgenre are you writing in? If you're writing romance, are you writing a paranormal romance? Are you writing a Western romance? And that can kind of get you into the mindset of knowing, exactly what it is that you're going to be writing. You can also prepare by knowing your characters. So just the basics. You don't have to know all their backstory and what their childhood trauma is, just their name and what they look like and where they're from. So that as you're writing, those are the things that you don't have to stop and go back and look for later on. You can also know things like the setting. Where is your story taking place? Is it taking place in a modern day city? Is it taking place in an ancient world village? Is it taking place on another planet? So just get those basic world building details down. So those are things that you don't have to stop and figure out as you're writing. If you already have that stuff kind of built up in your head, it's a little bit easier for you. I'm going to put up on my website a really quick worksheet that you can use. It can download for free, just print it off, that you can use to kind of get those facts so that you'll already have them there for you once you start writing for your National Novel Writing Month projects. Tip number 2 is to tell people that you are doing NaNoWriMo. You can do that in several ways. The first and the biggest way that you should definitely do is to declare your project on the NaNoWriMo site. So if you go to National Novel Writing Month, I'll put the exact website up on here somewhere. If you go to that exact site, it will ask you to go ahead and declare your project. And from there, you can kind of give it just a temporary project name. You can list, those things that we talked about, what your subgenre is going to be. And just from there, that sets your project up on their website, and that is a declaration. You can also declare it to your friends and to your family and to other people, so to your writing friends that you might have. And this is important for several reasons. The first reason that it's really helpful to declare your project is for accountability. So in order to win NaNoWriMo, you have to write 50,000 words between November 1st and November 30th. That averages out to about 1,667 words per day. Of course, you can write more on certain days, you can write less on certain days, but if you're doing an average, that's about what you need to write. For accountability, if people know that you're doing the project, they may ask you, how many words did you get done today? Or just kind of check up on you as you're going through the month. If it's November 15th, they might check and say, hey, how's that project going? And it just feels good to let people know that you're working on something that is this big and important. And it does give you that sense of accountability. People know I'm doing this project, so I want to keep working because they're going to ask me about my progress. Another reason that's important is because it gives you a sense of community. There are lots of people doing NaNoWriMo. So whether it's online talking about it or in real life at some of the locations, especially like libraries and coffee shops where we have write-ins, it gives you a sense of community. Hey, I'm doing this with other people. And so that helps you to be able to feel better about finishing, because writing can be just the loneliest job, because unless you're working with the co-writer, it's really just you and your notebook or your keyboard getting those words out to get that project complete. So letting other people know, hey, I'm doing this project too, that means you have people that you can work with and talk about Nano with, explain your struggles, celebrate your successes, etc. And then, of course, the last reason is to kind of give yourself space. So if people know that you're doing this project, that means, hey, he may not be able to go out with us, on Friday night because he's got to get those words in. Or she may not be able to, go have brunch with us because she's going to, stay home and get those words in. It might help your family know to give you space at home. So, don't bother, this person, your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, during the hours of between 6 and 8, because that's when they're going to be working on their nano project. Or maybe stay out of this room and let them work quietly because they're trying to get their words written. So you want to, my dog's coming over. So you want to let people know so they can be aware to give you the space that you might need in order to get your words done each day. Tip number 3 is to understand the point of NaNoWriMo. With NaNoWriMo, your goal is to write 50,000 words. That does not mean on November 30th that you're going to have a book that's completed, done, ready to go, ready to ship off to an agent or a publisher, or even publish it yourself on the digital marketplace. That's not what that means. It means that you have 50,000 words, that you have a rough draft. So basically, if you accept that, then that means you won't stop and edit as you go and try to research more details and fill in more plot points. You're not trying to stop and make corrections and make a sentence perfect and pretty. You're not trying to, come up with the best way to describe certain paragraphs. You're not doing that, because that is not the goal of NaNoWriMo. The goal of NaNoWriMo is just to get those words on paper. Get that rough draft out, because you cannot edit a blank page. You cannot correct a book that doesn't exist. So your goal here is to get the words out first. Get that rough draft down. Then after November 30th, you can go through and make those words pretty. Make those sentences pretty. Make them more detailed. Add in those cool characters. That's when you work on that, after you finish basically what is to be your rough draft. So that's where a lot of people get stuck when they're writing, is they can't move forward because they're spending so much time trying to correct each single paragraph. I don't like the way this chapter turned out. This is the point of NaNoWriMo, is to get you past that hang up. Now is not the time to stop and make corrections. Now is just to get the words down. So if you're writing every day, you're working on your 1,667 words, and you find yourself stopping to go back and make corrections, stop it. Don't do that. Remind yourself that is not the point of Nano. The point of NaNoWriMo is to get your words done. Then when you're finished with those 50,000 words, when you're finished with the rough draft, December 1st, whenever afterwards, that's when you go back and start editing. Tip number 4 is to do a daily pre-write prep. So every day when you get ready to start working on whatever chapter or scene it is that you're doing, take a few minutes just to do a real quick free write of what exactly it is that you're about to write. So if you know that you're going to be writing a chapter, in a Western, then maybe you can kind of get those, just a real quick outline, very short, real rough sentences. A guy walks into a bar, he's wearing a purple hat, and he sees his enemy from 2 years ago sitting on the booth. So if that way okay, that's what I need to fill in this chapter. I've already worked out what's happening, so now I just need to go ahead and start writing it. It can be hard to sit down and just start writing just from a zero starting point with nothing in place and nothing in mind. So if you do that free write, even if you're a pantser, you don't have to do it. Again, this is not detailed. Even if you just take a few minutes and just write down a real brief description of what you think is going to happen in that scene, just a little bit of pre-writing, that can maybe help that scene flow, help you visualize it so that you can get those words coming a little bit faster, and you won't have to spend so much of your writing time that you've set aside for yourself coming up with what exactly is going to happen in that scene. So definitely take a little bit of time to pre-write before each scene. Tip number 5 is to keep track of your word count. So you know that you're trying to reach 50,000 words by November 30th. If you record how many you're doing each day, that helps you to know how many words you have left, because of course you can just subtract from the 50,000 word total. So it kind of keeps you, going, letting you know this is how many words I still have left to go. It can also let you know if you feel like you're falling behind. So remember that average is 1,667 words per day. If you have a few days in a row where you don't hit that number, you can, by keeping track of your word count, that'll let you know, oh, I need to do this many words to, maybe make up for what I've, fallen behind on. You can keep track of your word count on just a piece of paper. You can write it down in your notebook. You can create a spreadsheet. You can use the NaNoWriMo site, which allows you to put in your word count each day, and it will keep track of that for you. So basically, there are many different ways that you can keep track, but it's really important to keep track of that word count, because that way it lets you know how many you've already made, and so you can kind of look at that as a success. Hey, I've already written 30,000 words. That's awesome. I'm almost done. It can let you know how many you still have, and how many you still have to go. And just seeing that record of seeing how many you've done every day is a really good feeling. Trust me, it's a really great feeling to see how many words you've managed to get down each day, so that you know that you're working towards something. So go ahead and keep track of your word count daily, whether that's in a spreadsheet, like I said, or on a notebook, or on the NaNoWriMo site, just to kind of give yourself that little bit of motivation and keep you on track. Before I share the next tip, I'm going to take a quick moment to share with you my featured book for this week. Tip number 6 is to share your success. So don't be afraid to tell people whenever you do something awesome in this writing challenge. So whether it's you completed your first day, yes, tell people. You completed your first 5 days, tell people. You managed to write 7 days in a row. Share your successes. If you hit that first 15,000 words, if you hit that first 25, oh man, you're almost there. Go ahead and tell people and share your success because it gives you that accountability, lets people know that this is something that you're serious about. Getting some feedback from people and people cheering you on is an awesome feeling. So if you tell people, hey, I'm halfway done with Nano, and they're cheering you on and helping you get that sense of feeling that you want to keep going and finish the entire challenge, that can be a great way to do that. So share your successes. You don't have to keep it secret. It doesn't have to be, that lonely writer sitting in the corner with the typewriter by themselves, unless that's just really what you want to do. But if you feel like you would like to share your successes, go ahead and do that. So you can share your success on the NaNoWriMo site. You can share it online with your writing friends if you've got a critique group or just some writing buddies. And with your in real life friends and family, just however you want to share it, go ahead and let people know what you've managed to accomplish in the writing challenge as the month goes on. Okay, tip number 7 is really important, so I need you to listen really closely and do exactly as I say. I'm telling you this as your writing friend. Tip number 7, no internet during writing sessions. I mean it. Turn the internet off. I don't care what you have to do, whether that's go to somewhere where you don't have internet or use the internet blocker on your computer. There are lots of them that you can use. Whether that's writing by hand so that you obviously don't have the internet on a notebook, and make sure that your phone is somewhere else, or maybe going somewhere, like I like to go and sit in my car and write somewhere because I don't have the internet, just in a random park. So basically take yourself away from the internet. And the reason I want you to do this because it is a giant distractor. So obviously if you've allowed yourself 2 hours to write on a Wednesday night, if you spend your time on the internet checking your email, going to Facebook, watching a TikTok, that's gonna, one, eat away at your time because you just spent 30 minutes scrolling, and so now that's 30 minutes that you don't have to write, so that's going to cut down on the amount of words you can get down. The second reason is because every time you have to stop and restart your brain to write, it takes time to get back into that writing mindset. So if you write 500 words and then you stop for a TikTok break, your brain has now started thinking, oh, it's time to be entertained, let's pay attention to this. Then you turn the TikTok off, now you've got to get back into the mindset of writing, and that takes time to do. So keep your brain on the writing focus the entire time for your writing session. It will be better for you. Now, obviously this does not work for everyone. Everyone's brains are different, but for most people, it is probably going to be best for you to leave the internet alone and to stay focused on your word count goal for the day, and maybe reward yourself with some internet time once you're actually finished. So tip number 7, again, stay off the internet. So speaking of rewards, tip number 8 is to reward yourself. So reward yourself as you reach your goals throughout NaNoWriMo. That does not mean you wait until you completed the entire 50,000 word challenge to give yourself a reward, although you definitely should do that. However, you can also give yourselves little mini rewards throughout the challenge just to kind of give yourself some motivation to continue writing and keep going. I myself am not an intrinsically motivated person. I have never been an intrinsically motivated person. That is not going to happen for me. So I like to reward myself with small things. Hey, I wrote 10,000 words. So that means I get to have a new nail polish. Or I wrote my 1667 words for the day. I'm going to put a sticker on my chart. I love stickers. So do small little rewards to help you feel motivated and feel good about what you've managed to accomplish. If you wrote 3 days in a row, maybe go ahead and take yourself out and get yourself a Slurpee or something. I don't know. Whatever it is that you want to do. It does not have to be a big, giant reward. Something small to make yourself feel good for what you've managed to accomplish and make you feel like you can reach for the next reward by making your next goal. So whatever it is that you like to do, whether it's an extra episode of your favorite TV show you're binging, whatever it is, give yourself smaller little rewards for completing your writing goals throughout the NaNoWriMo month challenge. We're almost done. Tip number 9 is a big one. Tip number 9 is to plan for non-writing days. And what I mean by that is be prepared in advance for days when you know that you're not going to be able to write. So, for example, if you are in the US, we celebrate Thanksgiving in November. So that's going to be several days where it might be hard for you to get your words down. So if you are celebrating Thanksgiving and you have to travel out of town, that's some time that might be hard for you to write. If you have family coming over, you may have to obviously entertain them, or you have to might get your house ready for guests. If you're cooking, then you've got to spend the time cooking, obviously. You may have to do some extra grocery shopping. Those are all things that are extra things added onto your normal schedule, which might take away that time that you have set up, that you might have carved out for yourself in order to be able to sit down and write each day. So if you know that you're going to be missing days being able to write, whether it's Thanksgiving or family members having a birthday, or you're not going to be feeling well, go ahead and plan around those days to be prepared to write. So it could be that you just wake up an extra hour early in order to get your words down. Or it could be if you know that, on that week of Thanksgiving, you're not going to be able to write, maybe the week before you do get 200 extra words in each day just to kind of make up for some of that you're going to lose. Because it is easier to get ahead than it is to try and catch up. There's just a feeling where you're behind on the word count, or it just feels like, oh, I'm behind, now I have to catch up, or maybe I'm just not going to finish. It's a really awkward, negative way of thinking about the writing challenge that you can avoid if you get your words done in advance. So it's like, oh, I'm not behind, I did my words ahead of time. So if you know you're going to miss 2 days in November because of Thanksgiving, go ahead and write some words extra ahead of time so that when you get back to it, you're not behind, you're right on schedule. And tip number 10 is to participate in NaNoWriMo. And by that I mean, again, show that you are participating in NaNoWriMo, whether that's in real life or virtually. So if you go to the NaNoWriMo site and put in your region, whatever city you live in, there will be some forums where you can kind of speak with other people and find ways to participate. So they have a lot of virtual write-ins which you can participate. I believe Zoom is what a lot of the I don't know if all of the regions use that, but a lot of them will use Zoom, so you can write with people on the internet if you don't like to go out in public, or if you're not able to, or if you live really far away from people, then you can use Zoom in order to be able to speak with some of your fellow writers. A lot of places also have in-person meetups, which are often held at libraries and coffee shops and bookstores. So you can participate in those so that you can be around other people who are doing that. And that can be a great way to meet some writing friends, to find some critique buddies to kind of read over your work once the challenge has ended, just to maybe find some people that you can, decide you want to write with, do some writing challenges with on your own later once NaNoWriMo has ended. So definitely participate. It'll help you feel like you're part of the community, and so that you can feel motivated to continue and definitely, win the challenge, and maybe hopefully even meet some people that you continue writing with once the challenge is over. So participate in NaNoWriMo. And I have a bonus tip. I know I said 10, but I thought of one more after I had already made my list, so I'm going to give it to you. Bonus tip is to not beat yourself up if you do not win NaNoWriMo. If you see yourself falling behind and it's, November 15th and you've only written 2,000 words for whatever reason, don't feel like you're a failure. Don't feel like, I've got to, kill myself staying up to midnight every night for the rest of the week in order to get these words done. Don't feel like you're ashamed and you can't, admit to people that you weren't able to commit the challenge. Life happens. Sometimes we go into it with the greatest intentions and we think we're going to be able to do it, and then life happens and then we can't. Or maybe the project that you took on wasn't really, you weren't really ready to start writing it yet. Or maybe, it just didn't, this challenge just made you feel uncomfortable. You don't like having to feel like you're rushing towards a certain deadline of words. Some deadlines work for some people, and some people, they don't work for them at all. So don't feel like if you don't complete NaNoWriMo that you have failed. It just means that this challenge did not work out for you. You can try again next year in November, and maybe, especially if it's your first time. Most people on their first time don't win NaNoWriMo because they're not quite sure exactly what's happening here. So you can try again that you have a little more experience with it. You can do Camp NaNoWriMo in either, I believe it's April and July, where you set your own word count goals, and maybe that can be a way to help you get prepared to do the 50,000. If you maybe do a word count goal of 15 in April and you complete that, now you feel ready to take on that 50,000 word challenge in November. So don't beat yourself up. Things happen. You could have a really tough school semester. You could get sick. You could have a family emergency. You could start a new job. You never know what is going to happen, so don't feel bad about yourself if you're not able to complete the challenge. It's just for fun. It's just to help people get their words down. You don't know what's going to happen with those words afterwards. The year I won NaNoWriMo in 2020, those words have not gone anywhere. They're still sitting on my laptop. I have not moved past the first draft on that book. And maybe I never will. I don't know. I was happy that I won, but I haven't done anything with those words right now, and that's okay. So don't feel like just because if you win Nano, it's going to mean automatically you're going to have this fantastic, wonderful book that's going to be published and everybody's going to love, because that doesn't necessarily mean that. So don't. Again, it's just a challenge, just to get some words down. It's okay if you don't win it. You can always come back and try again next year. So reminder, I will have those Nano worksheets up on my website. I will have the link down here below, and so that you can go ahead and just click on that. It will take you directly to it, and you can print them off. They'll be in PDF form, and you can just print them and use them to keep track of your word count and to prepare. Even if you are watching this video after November 1st and the Nano's already underway, you can still go back and use them. That is okay. You can get started whenever you can fill this out whenever you're ready to fill it out, or you can save it for Camp NaNoWriMo, or you can use it next year. So if you are participating in NaNoWriMo this year, I would love to know about it. So go ahead and let me know down in the comments. If you're participating, let me know if this is your first attempt or if you've done it plenty of times before, and what it is that you're working on. I am myself, I'm going to be attempting NaNoWriMo this year. I'm going to be working on a medieval fantasy that popped into my head earlier this year, and I thought this would be a great time to go ahead and attempt it, or to get some words down. I'm not sure if I'm going to win it because I'm actually working on some other projects as well. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm going to go ahead and use those tips and just, stay focused and go easy on myself. If I don't, it's okay. But I'm looking forward to trying. If you would like to friend me on the Nano site, I'm listed on there as Krista Tomlinson. Go ahead. I forget what the process is to friend me, but I'm there if you would like to do so. So go ahead and reach out. That'd be awesome. If you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, I would really appreciate it if you give it a like. And if you would like to share this video and tell your writing buddies about these writing tips to help them win Nano, that would be super cool too. And if you'd like to see more from me, please go ahead and subscribe. Thank you so much. Have a good writing week. Bye.